Have you ever stopped to think about what you actually own online? We pour billions into digital things, game skins, ebooks, but is any of it really, truly ours? So let's get into it, because there's this huge new vision for the internet called Web3 that promises to change all of that. But the big question is, how does that dream actually hold up when it meets the real world and its rules?
When you boil it all down, the whole debate really comes down to this one simple but really powerful idea. Right now, the internet we all use, Web 2, has basically made us all digital renters. We're just living and creating on platforms that we have zero control over. Web 3's promise? Well, that's a massive shift, to finally make you a digital owner.
So, what does it actually mean to be a renter on the internet? Well, it all boils down to a problem of control. The value you create, the stuff you think you're buying, at the end of the day, it's all governed by someone else.
And just think about how real these examples are. That awesome skin you bought in a game, it's just a little piece of code on a company's private server. They could delete it tomorrow, or the game could shut down, and poof, it's gone. Your entire ebook library. You're not buying books, you're just licensing the right to read them. You can't just sell one to a friend like you could with a paperback. And your social media followers, that audience you built, that's trapped inside a platform's walled garden. You don't own that relationship.
And that is the exact problem Web3 is trying to fix. It's proposing a completely new model for the internet, one that's built on a foundation that claims it can give control back to you, the user, through ownership that is verifiable and permanent.
Now, the engine behind this whole promise is the NFT, the non-fungible token. Just forget all the hype and the crazy headlines for a minute and think of it as a digital deed. It's a one-of-a-kind entry on a public ledger, the blockchain, that proves you and only you own a specific digital thing. And the really crucial part, you hold this deed in your own personal wallet, not on some company's server.
And this right here is the absolute game changer. Because that proof of ownership is on a decentralized blockchain. It doesn't depend on any single company. If the game developer goes belly up or the social media site disappears, your asset, your deed, still exists. It's still in your wallet. Your ownership is forever. I mean, that's a totally radical idea compared to everything we've known online.
But look, a revolutionary idea like this doesn't just exist in a fantasy land. As Web3 starts to shift from a dream into a potential reality, the real world is starting to react. Governments, huge financial institutions, they're not just watching anymore. They're jumping in and actively writing the rules of the road.
Just take a look at this number from a TRM Labs report. More than 70% of major jurisdictions are now building specific rules for stablecoins. And stablecoins are key. They're basically the digital dollars of this world, the things that make the whole ecosystem work. This isn't some niche hobby anymore. This is a global policy issue.
And you know what happens when clear rules show up? The big institutions follow. In 2025, an incredible 80% of those same places saw major financial players launch their own digital asset projects. This is proof that regulatory clarity is opening the floodgates for mainstream adoption. The big money is officially on the move.
And this isn't just happening in one country. No, this is a coordinated global thing. You've got the US passing laws to make stablecoins safer, the EU is rolling out its massive MiCA framework to cover all crypto, and the major hubs in Asia, Hong Kong, Japan, Singapore, they're all building their own rulebooks. The message couldn't be clearer. The Wild West days are over.
Okay, so the world is figuring out the rules for how this stuff interacts with our money. But there's a much deeper, more fundamental problem under the surface. For Web3 to actually work with anything in the real world, data, events, you name it, it has to solve this one critical technical puzzle. It's called the Oracle problem, and it really makes you question the whole idea of a trustless system.
It's such a simple question, right? But the implications are huge. A blockchain is a sealed box. It has no way to look outside of itself and see if it's raining, or who won the Super Bowl, or what the price of Apple's stock is. So how does it get that information?
It relies on something called an oracle, and an oracle is really just a messenger. It's a service that goes out, finds real-world data, and brings it back to the blockchain so a smart contract can use it. So in this example, a contract needs to know the temperature to make a payment, and the oracle is the one that tells it. But here is the Achilles heel. What if that messenger lies? I mean, what if the oracle gets hacked or bribed, or even just makes a mistake and reports the wrong temperature? The smart contract has no idea. It just automatically does what it was told to do based on bad information. All of a sudden, your trustless system has to put all its trust in one data source. And believe me, this isn't just a what-if scenario.
In the world of decentralized finance, or DeFi, where these contracts are managing billions of dollars, this exact weak spot was used to steal over $403 million in 2022 alone. This is a single point of failure with massive, real-world consequences.
And that brings us right to the heart of the matter, to the core dilemma. It's a real bucket of cold water on the grand vision of a fully decentralized world. How do you possibly square this need for reliable real-world data with the absolute core principle of Web3?
This quote from the Bank for International Settlements, which is kind of like the central bank for all the other central banks, is incredibly telling. They're basically arguing that because of this oracle problem, the purest form of this new financial system might always be stuck in its own little digital bubble, unable to reliably connect with real-world things.
So you're stuck in this kind of catch-22. You can try to decentralize the messengers themselves, create these complex networks to check the data, but that just adds tons of cost and slows everything down. Or you can use one fast, efficient oracle, but then you're right back where you started, relying on a single trusted company, the very thing Web3 was supposed to get rid of.
Which leaves us with this final question. Is the real promise of Web3 a future where we don't have to trust anyone? Or is it a future where this incredible new technology isn't about eliminating trust, but about reinventing it? About finding new, more transparent, and more verifiable ways to trust the bridges we build between our digital lives and the real world? That right there is the challenge that's going to define the next era of the internet.